than we, like more Clement, around these ideas that we had, and we wanted to share with all of the people in the ecosystem. This is not a Kleros project. Like we just had this idea because we did some work with the token created registry, with where people could submit tokens to be listed into a list of tokens, and we said, hey, but this can be used also for proof of humans, right? Because it worked very well. So the idea of this is just to mention what we did and to see how we could build this together, because it's important for the ecosystem. So, Clement, maybe you want to go into more detail about this.
Proof of humanity, I think it's a really fundamental block of a decentralized web. This has been a problem since even way before blockchain. Like if you see when you put CAPTCHA, or when you get people saying like corporations sending you messages, text messages, they generally try to avoid that you register tons of time to sybil attack systems, to make tons of comments from different puppet accounts, that you spam on forum, on chats. So that's, I think, a really old problem, and it's not really been solved in Web 2. And in Web 3, once we give value to people, like with UBI, the problem is even worse, because your incentive to get money from UBI is going to be even harder than your incentive to go and spam on forum. So the main idea of proof of humanity is to combine social vouching. So to be added to the registry, you need to have people already in the registry vouching for you, and a dispute resolution system about a video that you make. You make a small video, you put you put a sign with your address, and you also put a stake. All people who vouch for you can put a stake instead of you if they trust you. If someone thinks that you're not a human, like in Deepfake or a puppet or whatever that you put in the video, or that you were already in the registry, they can challenge your submission. And in this case, they will put evidence of why you were already registered or why your video is fake. Then for that, we need a dispute resolution system. That's where the link with Kleros comes. And if you get challenged and you lose this challenge, you don't get added to the registry, and people who vouch for you get removed from the registry. And I think that's quite important, because we won't manage to make a perfect system. There will be people who will manage to fool the system once in a while. But if on average you lose more identities than what you win by trying to attack the system, you won't be able to make the sybil attack where you make 1 million fake accounts and you use them to steal all the UBI or to make tons of spam. So I really think it's a really important brick of this ecosystem that we are building now. So yeah, you have UBI, you have anti-spam mechanism, you have quadratic funding. So in what Vitalik is quite interested in wrote a paper about liberal radicalism, which is to fund public good, depending on how individual put some money. So like you put one die, and they're gonna be a matching to your die. And idea that two people putting one die is more revealing that this project needs to be funded compared to one person putting two die. So for this kind of system, you need a sybil protection, because otherwise you just make tons of small 4AK accounts, you control them by bot, and you make each of them give one set of die, and for your one die, you get crazy amount of matching from those funding mechanism. I think one of the huge challenges to it is you don't want people to be tracked on everything they make, because they're going to get an address which is verified as a non-civil human, but you will have your name and your video linked to it, and you may not want everyone to be able to know everything you're doing on the Web3. So one of the challenges is to, from a set of public civil proof identity, create some anonymous civil proof identities, and we have a cryptographic tool for that, which are trustable ring signatures, and there may also be other competing solutions, most of them based on ZK proof. So that's still something which may be improved with the work of other people working on this technology. Now I think we can perhaps go to people who have a project.
Hello, my name is Andres Tunge. I am a co-founder of a startup of a project called Uport, which is about a self-sovereign identity. It's hosted at Consensus. Well, self-sovereign identity is basically identity controlled by the user. Just in a couple of words, it's a lot more than that, but just basically the idea is that. I found the curated registry that Kleros does pretty interesting for identity itself. What I want to get out of this meetup, it's about two problems we have in identity. One thing is like how to prove someone is a human and not a machine. And the other problem is how to prove the person or someone on the other side is just one single unique human and not two. Like we can have like one human have 2 or 3 identities, and that will become an issue. Even if it's not a machine, a human can be a sybil or a self-sybil, right? So I would love to hear your ideas on that, because that's something that's still somehow the only solution seems to be biometrics, but well, maybe there's another thing to solve.
Solution.
My name is Santiago. I work with Democracy Earth. We're a non-profit organization that's been researching democracy and the internet for the last 5 years. Identity is very important. We got a grant from Templeton Foundations to deepen our research on exactly proof of humanity. And what we realized is that it's such a complex problem that the best we can do right now is learn as much as possible from all the different experiments that are out there, trying different angles. I think Kleros is going in a direction we are very aligned at Democracy Earth on combining TCRs, sortition, and ways of judging proofs that are generated by humans. There are other approaches as well. I think a principle to abide was very well stated by Edward Snowden in Berlin this summer during Web3, where he said, don't verify the identity, verify the right to use a technology. That's a very subtle distinction, but it's a very important one. Another thing he said in that same talk is that the one vulnerability today being exploited in every system is identity. So the complexity of identity is very profound, because it's this object that lives in the objective world and the subjective world, or the intersubjective world. And it's a very strange part of the universe, those parts of that way of framing it. We use attention as in TCRs, but also we need objective ways of trying to fight back. There are some projects that I think are worth mentioning. Humanity DAO is one of them. They did a very interesting proof of concept where it's a TCR over Twitter accounts. There's a Russian project called IDINA, which uses machine learning resistant Turing tests that need to be solved by all the parties at the same time. That the synchronous solving of Turing tests that are hard for machines but easy for humans solved at the same time would give you a certain degree of sybil resistance and proof of personhood, not exactly proof of human, because maybe there's a genius that can solve 4 of these Turing tests where most people can solve 1. But that's like a complete different angle to the TCR approach, which I thought it was really interesting. And I think we have to be very creative. And I agree, if we figure this out, then the social blockchain happens. So far, we only had the financial capitalist greedy blockchain, which is great, and I won't complain. But there's, if these technologies are going to face society, are going to change, are going to become the narrative of the 21st century, doing democracy, universal basic income, portable credit, better KYC, luxury communism, whatever you want to do that is social, needs this. And we need to start thinking about this very creatively and start doing these experiments, making these things happen. So I'm looking forward to talk with other people.
My name is Audrey. I'm a developer. I think that the proof of humanity is an interesting problem, and the 2 talks between Kleros and Democracy Earth were kind of the most, I guess, inspiring to me of the conference. So I'm here to learn and try to help this move forward and try and solve the issues that everyone has talked about so far.
I think we have.
Okay.
Do you,
Yeah.
you just want to, just what you're doing, what you think this could be useful for? And
Cool. Well, I'm here to learn too. My name is Max. I'm from San Francisco. I'm a nomad of the world now, so I've been traveling for over a year. I'm also part of a venture builder called Volcano Ventures, and basically there I'm involved in a decentralized finance project. So me being here is just more of learning than anything else. I came because of curiosity.
So hi guys, I'm Felipe. Work for DAOstack, and I think identity is one of the essential pipelines to create the unlocking of human potential to collective intelligence, and just as legal and many other things that we're trying to solve. And I've been keeping an eye on Kleros ever. I'm a blockchain baby as well. I'm not that old in the scene, and Kleros was there at the first event that we organized in Berlin, and I've been keeping an eye out for what you guys do since then, and a lot of beautiful things have happened. And also, I'm friends of City for many years, so I could not conceive of not being here. I'm very, very tired, almost loopy, about to pass out standing here, but let's push it a little bit more to be here with you guys.
Anyone else?
yes, everyone, right?
Yeah.
So,
The state of the art of identity or self-sovereign identity, basically, it's we have identifiers, which the thing is that they can be controlled by users. So basically, identifiers are keys, like cryptographic keys that you can use to sign things, right? The most important part is that the key here is that you're allowed to sign things, and those the things that you sign are called attestations, which means like my identifier says that his identifier it's attached to something called a name or a type of name, and that name value is Federico, right? And you can prove that what I say is true because it's signed by me, and my key is stored on the blockchain. The only thing that should be on the blockchain in this sense is the key, the public key that I used to sign. So that way, not any information is stored on the blockchain, or any personal identifier information is stored on the blockchain. So Federico and everybody else is protected, and Federico has that information that I said about him. And he can pass that information to anybody in a self-sovereign way. He can decide who to give them to or not, and that way anybody can check that I said that. So that's where we are right now. There's standards for that. We have a lot of companies doing the same thing, or pretty much the same thing. We are finding a way to standardize that. But the challenge mainly here is like, okay, what is what I say about Federico is true or not? That's one thing. The other thing is, who am I? Like, you only see me as a DID or an identifier, right? This identifier said something about that identifier, but you don't know anything about me. You need to have an attestation about me, say, by somebody else, and then you have the problem of like, who is this somebody else? Yes. So
who verifies the verifier?
Who verifies the verifier? So the proposal is like building something we call a web of trust. So it's a community that like can be big, can be small. It's an ecosystem maybe that we can say, okay, Juan's gonna be the verifier for all of us, and we go to him and he says like, okay, my name is Andres, your name is Federico, whatever, and we all trust him, right? The other way to do it is to have a different, okay, I will trust Juan, and I will trust Federico, and whatever they say, whatever Juan says he trusts, I will trust him implicitly also. So that's a way of doing. That's one challenge, like how to verify the verifier. And the other issue is like what I said first is like, how do I know what I'm saying is true? So here, that's where the TCR or the curator agency comes into mind for me. It's like, okay, the community can verify that. Like if I say, or if many people say, okay, here are attestation that this DID is about this guy. Okay, great. But you can challenge that if you have proof that identifier is not about him, right? And another in the context of humanity, because that attestation identifier thing works for machines too. Like we can have identifiers for IoT devices or for applications, dApps, contracts, whatever, right? But to prove that something is a human, then we have the issue about like how can I prove that the thing that I'm attesting or the identifier is about a human? So all these solutions you're coming out makes a lot of sense, but somehow it relates with the thing about like what if, for example, Federico has more than one identifier, because it's a good practice to have more than one identifier. Maybe I have an identifier at my job that allows me to somebody gives me an attestation that I'm allowed to enter the company or that I'm an employee of the company, so I will receive a salary or whatever. And then I have another identifier that I'm a poker player because. And I don't want those two identifiers like mixed together, because at my company they wouldn't like me that I'm a poker player, and in my poker friends I don't want them to know that I'm in this company because whatever, right? So if I want to build a system for voting or for UBI or something like that, we can have many identifiers. So how do I know that these two identifiers is exactly the same person? Or the same human? And in that context, the problem is that it's in each of these two fake. It's one of these two fake? No, both are true, because both are identifiers of me, right? But we need a way to prove that these two identifiers is the same. So if I don't can come to an UBI system and say, hey, this is my identifier, I'm a human, I prove that, this other one is and I got like 2 times the price. So one proposal is the one that Santi proposed or talk about, is the Russian guys like solve the problem at the same time. So that will try to solve the thing that you only can solve one problem at a time. So if all solve the problem the same problem or different problems at the same time, I cannot solve 2. But then some people can solve 2. So there's this we need to test that. So those are the challenges. I'm happy to come with ideas.
Perhaps to answer more on having different identifier for different purpose. When I spoke about the anonymous identifier, you can have an anonymous. You can allow each public sybil proof identity to create one anonymous sybil proof identity for UBI, and they can also create another one for your poker room or for your company access system.
Yeah.
So you can, from one public identifier, get multiple anonymous identifier for different purpose, but that on a specific purpose you can only make one of them, but you can make another, which is another specific purpose. So you cannot sybil attack because you can create one anonymous identity on each of the system, but not 2 times on the same system.
Yeah, but that's a challenge. Creating identifiers is just as creating a pair of keys. So if I'm a bad actor and I want to game the UBI system, I say, okay, the UBI system will ask me, okay, which is your identifier? Well, I create one. Then I come back later next day and say, oh, hey, here's another one. And I can create like many ones.
Oh, right? Yeah, so it was assuming that we already managed to have nice public civil proof identifier.
Yeah, so my thing here is that proving that you're a human, maybe it's a different challenge than proving you are not a sybil, right?
Oh, yeah, like probability is really about having a sybil proof list of humans.
Well, the two problems combined.
Sybil proof of human, yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Proving you're a human, maybe it's more easy. The TCR maybe can solve that. But proving you're not a sybil, I think it's harder.
Coming back to what you were saying earlier about how you were creating, I assume, some sort of social graph at the moment.
Yeah.
How do you, so if you have one weak link in that social graph, does that not collapse what's further down the line? So one's a verifier, but if he starts verifying and you get one weak link, how do you move past that one weak link? Like, is that an attack vector for
Yeah.
Juan, or is that an attack? Like, obviously there must be one for Juan as well. If he's the verifier, then he's open to high bribery attacks, right?
Yeah.
Is there? Maybe we don't have a solution to that, but is that something you guys obviously came across? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the system we already have in place has one trusted verifier or a couple of trusted verifiers, and we put the trust on those verifiers. So if we want to decentralize that trust, then, well, there's, I guess, what's the UN, the ones that say, okay, instead of you giving me an attestation about from an issuer that we trust, I will honor more the amount of attestation about you, what you're presenting. For example, instead of you saying, hey, give me an attestation from Juan or issue from Juan that says my name is Andres, please provide me 100 attestations saying you are Andres, because I will trust that more than trusting Juan. So, I mean, this was for the refugees problem, right? The refugees came in and says like, hey, give me your identity. It's like, what is your name? Oh, well, I lost my identity because my government died or whatever. So what is your name? Well, 100 people here from my town say my name is Andres, so probably my name is Andres. They call me Andres, whatever. So maybe that's a way to solve it in a like having a community that somehow proves that you are you have some specific attribute.
Not to throw a wrench in all that, but what if you have like a second wife in the next town over with a second family, and you go by another name? I mean, it just seems like a real problem to me, which I don't have an answer to it by any means, but like as we talk about ways to use your social graph to prove who you are, I mean, I think I know more than one person that, I mean, myself included, I have an alias that I go by, I mean, almost more frequently than I use my real name.
I mean, how many people have like personal email and business email?
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it seems like just another problem to think about.
Yeah, and also somehow it feels like it's two people in the same body somehow. So we want to prove that you're a single body, or you want to prove like, because these two persons like behave differently. Maybe in some people they have like different thoughts. Or like maybe in my job I have a political opinion, and with my friends I have another one.
Right.
So it's like,
and maybe you have an identical twin, like,
yeah,
you know, you trade places at work. I'm just saying, like, proof of human, like, implies like hard proof, and it gets a really.
I mean, a person with multiple personalities is one person, is one human, or is multiple humans?
I saw that movie too. I like that.
Split.
Yeah.
Split. Yeah. Good trilogy.
So we want to prove that you're a single body, or we want to prove you're a single. I mean, maybe this is going to deal like what is the person, right?
I think
philosophical.
Yeah.
More rational level, you cannot really prove about if you have multiple minds in the same body, because you cannot access the mind of other people. You can only access if they are physically one person or multiple person. So, like for now, the way to go for it with Pro Humanity project is with video of people. And okay, like if you have two personalities, in this case you're gonna be the same person in the video, and people who are fishing for attackers to challenge them, you're gonna see that the two videos are the video of the same person.
Yeah.
So I don't think you are thinking about the multiple mind in the same body. You probably won't be able to solve that. We also spoke about social graph analysis. And I think that can also be some kind of evidence when people are registering our challenge, and you can look if the social graph is going to make sense or not. And you have people working algorithm doing that. Where we also have to keep in mind that on social graph, you need to have some people you trust in the first place to kind of evaluate if the social graph makes sense. So I can say, oh yeah, like everyone is.
Somehow I do a machine learning or something that can check that two videos look the same guy or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. At the beginning, people are probably going to look at all the video, but once you get more and more users, you will have some tools which allow you to filter and only look the cases which are likely to be sybil. And like for government identity system, they do that. Like they have people which are specifically good and specifically trained to find if two faces are the same or not.
My concern with video is that the emergence of deepfakes is barely beginning, and if we extrapolate Moore's law, what's going to happen the next 5 to 10 years? Not only deepfakes swapping our faces and killing the uncanny valley and being indistinguishable. Like there's this website that I really like called "This Person Is Not Real," or "This Is Not a Person.com," and every time you refresh, it's a GAN-generated face that is completely undistinguishable than an average photograph of an average human. These are completely artificial, and eventually we will get deepfakes with voices, deepfakes.
Holding up their ID for KYC.
So this is like super scary stuff. I would try to weaponize this stuff to discredit legacy politics. So I'm in the Yang DAO, which we are doing deepfakes of Andrew Yang, and just inject confusion in existing political landscape. But in our own world, this is a big concern. We gave a lot of thought to video as well. I still think video is still there. It's easier for humans to process, hard for machines. Still, for AI, you have to have a good data set. I mean, you have to do a lot of curation with the data to get a good deepfake video. It's not that simple right now, but it can be super simple in 5-10 years time. And that's one of the question marks I put to the video approach.
Yes, that's why we need to have multiple methods to serve as evidence that something is fake or not.
Yeah, video, social
Video,
graph,
social
Turing
graph.
tests.
And if it becomes so important to get an identity there, we could even go to anonymous parties when at one particular time of the year you ask people to all go in the same, like a party at their town to verify that other people are there. But I don't think you can start with that because it's too much effort.
Looks like it's probably going to be something that will have multiple sources of proof.
And you need to...
And we need to find a way to score this. But the scoring, who watches the watchman? Who does the algorithm? Who decides how the score works? So the scoring itself requires some source of legitimacy, where the identity is being produced by the score also decide how this score works.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you get a DAO, and this DAO can then decide, okay, no, that's this kind of evidence that we are gonna use to determine if someone is an attacker or not. Perhaps to come back a bit on the deepfake, so that can be scary, but I'm not completely sure that it's gonna manage to fool computers too. So deepfakes may be really good at fooling humans, but then you can also use machine learning to fight machine learning by detecting if something is fake or not.
Maybe
we don't really know who's gonna win this arm race.
Maybe we want to treat an AI as a human. Why not? Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe we humans go back to schizophrenic state of mind. Like there's this book from 1981 called The Bicameral Mind that argues that originally humans were schizophrenics and we just moved away with culture and language. But if you read at the ancient Greeks, they talk with the gods and they talk about the story indistinguishable because their sense of self, they believed it was their sense of the different god that they were being incarnated by at the moment, because they were polytheists, so they were probably schizophrenics. And maybe we go back to that, or maybe we even redefine a political subject, and the political subject is no longer the human individual as capitalist society has trained us to believe. And maybe political subject, like in quadratic voting, is multiple minority groups competing for those who can allocate many votes on a single issue. I think that there's a lot of things that we need to be challenged. Even what does it mean to be human?
I think the hard part is not really the human.
Just because the conversation wasn't hard enough. The conversation wasn't confusing.
I think the hard part may not really be like the human. It's really the sybil, which is the hard part. Because now even like imagine you get some AI and the AI are more clever and have more emotional state than humans. They're probably going to be able to replicate way easier than humans.
Yeah.
So you may still not want to allow them because they can sybil way easier compared to humans.
An AI can be better at being a judge on the TCR than a human. Maybe an AI can see things on the on the ripples of the pixels of a gun that a human cannot see. But if you cannot parse the bits of a gun, you can probably see, the signature of the algorithm somewhere. And maybe that would turn AIs into the best validators of humans.
That was my first comment when we did that. Like my first comment, okay, why do you discriminate against bots? Yeah, this is okay. Proof of humanity. You want everyone in the list. So, but this is tagged as a human, and this is tagged as a bot, and you also can earn reputation and everything.
Yeah.
But about how right now, deepfake videos are a problem because maybe we can start with like the videos in the next 2 years, and when this starts to be like impossible to distinguish, then we just pick something else.
So
right?
one thing that we can do to increase the cost of attacks on videos and maybe gain some time on related on how advanced AI is at detecting videos, just to change the subject and the challenge that we're giving on the video. So if we're making a video like, oh, just show your card like here, this is say something else, then maybe it's easier to create a deepfake. But we can make another type of challenge, which is like, if someone gives a little bit more information, let's say, or where they're located geographically, you can just say, oh, go to this place and do like this.
Yeah.
So this video is a lot harder for AI to do, and
a random
challenge response.
An IRL timestamp, basically. Timestamp IRL.
Well, that's the logic of the
Why
Turing
couldn't you
test.
fake that with
Yeah.
Snipet?
That's a Turing
I
test.
think this idea
Why
is
couldn't
quite
you fake that?
interesting.
well,
And
but at least I think it's more expensive.
I would say it's related to what we do in blockchain and proof of something algorithm, like proof of work. They make some new algorithm which are made to. So if someone managed to break the proof of work algorithm, you can change the proof of work algorithm into a new algorithm which will not be sybil attackable. So that's also something we are seeing in the crypto space with proof of work, and I think we can also see it as like proof of human work. And if machine manage to do this human work, where you change the work, so just machine cannot evolve faster than you change it.
Well, like from the video side, you actually brought this up and we discussed this, but I think this is actually a pretty big point. What happens on the video side if I think this might work for this, but let's take Islam, the more draconian versions of Islam, let's say in Saudi Arabia, whatever, where women can't show their faces. Are they excluded because they're not really allowed to show their faces? Do we just exclude them? How do we break that barrier to allow them into
So even in a radical version of Islam, you're still supposed to show your faces to testify. I haven't spoken with a radical Islamist, so I can't really tell you what would be his view on that.
Like,
But
there's hundreds of millions of potential people there who are they going to do that with the
Well,
dangers that may
even
incur?
within the framework of radical Islamism, you can argue that they should still be allowed to do that.
You could argue it, but whether that means that on the ground at their level it makes any difference, I don't know. That's like, I mean, I have a few issues with video, the same as Santi, and we've discussed it.
Yeah, privacy. How do you make sure
And-
that okay, you're showing your face to the world, right?
Yeah, and also if you add location, which I think you mentioned, then you're starting to narrow down into potential attack vectors on the personal human level, and that starts getting dangerous.
It's my public key, and I say, okay, prove me that what is your name? Whatever. There's some standards, but basically prove me that you are. Who are you? And he gave me his passport, whatever document he has, whatever, and I said, okay, I can say that he's human first, and he also is Federico, right? So then I add all this information and sign that to his key. So and then I give it that information to him. So he start collecting in different events. Well, in an event like this, he can collect 10 or 12, right? So all these things were made to gather more score, because the more people that signs you, the more people somehow verifies you. So if you want to be part in the Debian government, if you want to be part like a maintainer or something, you need to have at least some amount of people verifying you. So people actually came to those parties so they can verify you. If you want to be a maintainer, you must go to any party around the world, and they will say, hey, why did you send me my keys? And there's some rules and protocols to do that, and then you start collecting these signatures from other people. So maybe a good idea is that if next Devcon or something we propose event or something that hey, let's sign all the keys or come up with your key and like let's do an event. It's
What was the incentive for at that time? So I know kind of the culture you're talking about. I was a little bit young for then, but what was the incentive then? Obviously, we're adding economic incentives and stakes in the game, skin of the game. What was, I guess at that point it was just a friendly camaraderie to not be malicious, or was there like another incentive on
well,
top of
the
that?
incentive was not to pollute the system. Like for example, you can game the system. Like if we all like say hey, let's sign that this guy is Bill Gates, right?
Sure.
And we all sign hey this is Bill Gates, and he can go out and say hey I have 20 signatures that say I'm Bill Gates, right?
Yeah.
But if those if for example I was part of the Debian project, I never would sign that because I don't want to pollute the whole system with a fake ID, right?
Sure.
So basically, I won't sign that, and like people try to behave because they don't want the system to be corrupted, right?
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked.
It worked. Mostly on, I guess, good faith at that time.
Yeah, mostly because the people that started the project or started this, there were like 50 people, and they signed themselves. And when they was started adding new people, they didn't add fake people.
Right.
And even if a group tried to add, the link won't work because the guy won't sign that.
I just want to point out that you think it worked, but if he lied about being Bill Gates because maybe he was in like the CIA, there's actually like real incentives for. I'm just saying for like government actors to sneak into such a system.
The thing works this way. I'm like part of the Debian project.
Yeah.
My key was signed by all the Debian developers. Like
All I'm saying is that like
200.
us polluting isn't the only attack vector. Like somebody lying is another vector.
No, because I say okay, what's your name? And he says Federico. He can lie,
Yeah.
but I will try to verify that it's actually Federico. So I will not trust just his word. I will say, hey, give me your passport, give me your document. And so if it's a fake passport, and I need to check if it's a fake passport. So
Can you do that?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
yeah, that's just. I mean, maybe we're moving then in the
That's okay.
good and perfect.
I
part.
love the key
Yeah,
party
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
I love the key party idea. If there was something at DevCon next year, I would definitely 100% participate.
The end
Yeah.
of the ceremony or the opening ceremony, everyone's in there.
I really
have
think you guys should do that.
some sort of incentive
Or
to
it's
be
it's
there.
a session. If you want, because if you want to go, then you have to do some work first, like before. Like you need to create a key and need to do what are the rules.
Or
Like
stake, you have to stake some sort of financial incentive to even
probably
turn up
like
and,
for example, you can stake some money, and in case you are doing bad verifications or loose verifications, like if I just ask him and I just sign in whatever, then maybe we can act. Some of us can act as bad actors to see if the system cracks or
I
not.
was
yeah.
saying maybe there should be an
I'll do that.
incentive to be malicious so that we can find the holes and then we would be able to see what
Offer a
went
bounty
wrong.
for somebody to sneak in a fake
Sure,
profile.
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I'm super into this.
And I mean, because we're all the Ethereum community is still reasonably small on the dev side, if you break that whole system just by being an asshole, then fine, because that's possible. But I don't know, in person it might be a little bit more edgy to be like that. You know, maybe you're more likely to act morally in that situation. I don't know. See you later, guys.
Have some accommodation problems we're gonna have to deal with.
Okay, Albus, okay.
Yeah, but I realized this